So what do you think of my, so does this background make sense to you?
Tell me about it.
So in the shift, right? So as your money shifts, what we're saying is your identity also needs to shift. And this is the doors that you pass through as you're making that change in identity while your money's making the change as well.
Oh, I love that.
So
I love that. It's very thoughtful, just like your logo. I love that.
So, you know, as we continue to preach the mantra behind the Real Wise Collective, you know, this idea is like, think about what you and I have been taught in the rooms that we spend the money we spend to be in, right? The two that come to mind to me are Ed Milet, when he stood in front of us and said, you're most qualified to be the people you just were, right? So here we are in this moment, after all of these years of being a long-term buy and hold, long-term rental portfolio owner, we've made a migration. We've walked through a door and we've expanded and grown, and we're taking risks now and attracting capital and doing things that, you know, when you first met me, wasn't necessarily the journey that we were quite certain. We were much more in one of these doors, and maybe now we're over here a little bit. So, you know, but what you and I would both believe is what our mentor Kent Collier and a number of the people that he brings into the room to talk to us say, which is you got to change who you think of who you are before you can really have the success that you truly are meant to have. And certainly you can adopt the strategies and some of the methodologies of the other operators in the room in order to help make your money do more for yourself. But to truly transform, you got to change the way you think.
100%.
Right? So
100%.
So welcome to the Capital Shift, my friend Fouad Bazzi.
I'm
so grateful for you to join us on the program. When I thought about the guest list and the people that I might invite in for a discussion, you were definitely one of the first people that I wanted to bring in. So I'm very honored and grateful that you were willing to spend some time with us today. So I'm going to give you a chance before I start haranguing you with all of these questions that I want to ask you. Give yourself an opportunity, really, as one of the first guests on the Capital Shift program. Introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are and what's up.
You mean everybody doesn't know me already?
Well, if they did their research, they'll probably have a little bit of but not everybody necessarily is ready for that kind of work.
You know, first off, I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm grateful for this. I still remember meeting you in Seattle for the first time at our first boardroom, and you were in my breakout room, and you walked up to the front room and you said, Brighton, Michigan. I said, oh, cool. Finally, somebody from local is here too. And so it made it easy, obviously, because not only do we just get those quarterly meetings in person, but, you know, we've also a handful of times I've been able to connect here locally and build a relationship that's really strong. And so you set this intention early, and I'm excited to watch you go through it. Of course, I'm somebody in the front row watching very closely because I'm in the short-term rental space. It's my world. It's what I do. I got into it out of necessity. I was a finance guy, grew up in the banking space for 20 years. I consulted banks for the last 10 years out of those 20. And I was traveling a lot for my corporate job, and I absolutely loved my job. I had probably the coolest job in banking, where I got to spend a lot of time on golf courses and in football and basketball stadiums, entertaining my clients, a C-suite of banks and whatnot. And it was just a lot of fun. And I just loved my relationships. And so when we were having our third kid, I knew I needed to hit the road. I knew I hit the road by get off the road. I was traveling so much. I needed to get off the road. I needed to leave my job. And my wife's law firm was at a point where she had built it well. It was her 7th year into her firm. So her income outpaced mine by a lot. And so we said, okay, cool. This is the time. We had goals, right? We had our collective goals of when is the right time for me to actually leave corporate. And it was, we had to be debt free, including our mortgage. And she had to be making more money than me, because up until that point, it was always my income that we depended on. So those things came true in 2018. She outpaced me by a lot. And so we took all that money and we just paid off all of our debt. We built our dream home, and then we said, okay, cool, it's time. And so I left, started a coffee shop, kids play place inside of it in mid 2019. It was really cool. called it for Kid City, and then started buying because they tell you just buy real estate, right? I didn't know anything. I didn't go to school. I didn't learn any. I didn't go to real estate school. I didn't learn anything about it. I just started buying all these long-term rentals. I was buying them turnkey, retail price, and I thought I was doing the right thing, but pretty quickly my math brain said the return on this is going to be really. So it's going to take me 30 years for somebody to pay off that mortgage for me. This doesn't feel right.
Yep.
So. Simultaneously needed to buy a short-term rental in Los Angeles because we were going to have to be there pretty frequently for 3 years as my daughter went through some treatments for allergies and things like that. And so we did that, and then I met Ken Clothier, and I paid for a day with Kent. I was kind of scarred from a real estate mastermind that I had joined to start learning it. And so I met Kent, and I said, before I join his mastermind, let me go spend a day with him. So I did the crazy thing that everybody told me I was nuts to do. I spent $10,000 to spend a day with a guy, and I sat in a room with him for 8 hours. And just like that, he made me realize there's no nobility in doing something small. If you're going to do it, just go do it.
Yep.
Sold my long-term rentals. COVID made me close the doors on the coffee shop. So I went deep on the short-term rental stuff. Started owning. That was awesome. Got really good at what I did. A lot of people wanted me to manage for them. I didn't really want to manage, so I acquired a management company, kept the owner as my director of ops and partner also. And she's fantastic at what she does because I don't want to operate, and she does a great job of that. I'm a vision guy. I'm a growth guy. That's where I live, build relationships and grow. That's frankly the thing that I missed the most out of my banking days was building relationships and growing. So now I get to do that again. And that's where we are. So we have the management company, our ownership. We're building our properties brand new now. We're actually building our first one that we're with the intention of selling as we speak. So it just kind of evolved a little bit, and here we are. We're here, 5 years in.
As if we just clapped our hands and snapped our fingers, and all of that happened. We all know that the story had some twists and turns along the way, some heartbreak, some sorrow, some elation, some oh my God, what are we doing? Oh my God, what did we get ourselves into? Any milestone moments that you remember during these 5 years that particularly stand out to you when it comes to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think probably the biggest milestone was my first boardroom mastermind meeting was after I met Kent. I joined boardroom, and so it was June 2022, and we were in Denver, Colorado, and we sat through 2 days of hot seats, and I was the last one. And so I go up, and I was second to last. And so I go up, and I own 3 properties at the time. Just the first one we bought on our own. That was our California one because we're going to use it a lot. The next 2 are first 2 in Scottsdale. We put 50% of the money in, and our family members put in the other 50%. And so I went up there kind of not knowing, you know, what's strategically, where am I going? I had some direction from Kent, but I was still trying to figure it out. I just told my story, and then I get off stage with a hot seat, and I had about 5 people walk up to me. Dude, you're awesome. Really love your story. Love who you are. Your personality is awesome. I can tell you're genuine. Cool properties you already bought. We want to invest with you. And I was like, whoa. And that wasn't even where my head was, but it just made me realize that that was the whole thing that you keep hearing in the background of OPM and other people's money, and there's people that want to invest in deals. But that wasn't even on my radar, being at 3 properties and not really knowing what I didn't know. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's what they were talking about. So that's when I realized, like, okay, I don't have to use my own money anymore. Now let's just go scale this thing.
Yeah. And there's much to be told about that part of the story, especially in the context of Fouad, the Scottsdale entrepreneur that's attracting capital, versus Fouad, co-operator of Owner Hosts. So let's talk a little bit about, so you made that first step in the journey. It revealed some things to you, and then you started to maybe even look out in a broader and maybe slightly different lane. True?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. So I consulted banks, right? And so I believe in consulting. I believe in it deeply. I seek it. I give it, all of that. And so what you learn pretty quickly in the short-term rental space is there are a lot of Instagram gurus. There are a lot of these guys, and they love to talk about cash on cash return and this and that and all these other things. And it's like, relax, first of all. They're not all cash on cash turns, because it's still, at the end of the day, they're still real estate investments. And for years, we've already known this is very fundamentally basic. What are the ways to make money in real estate? You have cash flow, you have appreciation, you have depreciation, and you have equity pay down. These are the four ways. That's it. It's simple. And so if you get this part of it wrong, you're not going to make enough revenue on short-term rental to make up for a bad buy. You're just not, right? I mean, at the end of the day, look, that's the return on these properties is, how, did I buy it right? Is there enough equity? If I had to make an exit, can I make an exit? Is there a pivot use that I can have? Like all these different things. And so that's the fundamental, the most basic thing that I can give anybody about short-term rental. We were talking about consulting. And so what I learned was all these people giving really bad advice in the industry and people like quitting their jobs quick. And I'm all about quitting your job, but what are the goals and what are the milestones that we have to achieve in order to do that? And did we do that? Or did we just hear a guy on Instagram say, I quit my job and I started my Airbnb company, so you just did it? And it's like, whoa. Because it's still a business. And we got to build it to make money in order to be able to live no matter what. And so I started consulting people because I realized that it was needed in this industry, not just coaching, not just guru, but real honest consulting in your financial profile, your objectives, starting with the end in mind, reversing it, all of it, reverse engineering, all of that. And so I came along, who's now my partner in the owner, host, or management company, Jacinda. And I helped her. I consulted her for a couple of years, actually. And I was actually getting ready to she doesn't even know this, but I'm going to send her this episode and she'll find it. But I was actually getting ready to stop consulting her because for so long I was giving her advice on how to build her team and how to delegate. She was a solopreneur, 40 something properties, and she couldn't even take on any more properties, and she wasn't even marketing and getting new properties. They were just coming to her because she was doing a really good job and referrals and TikTok and all this other stuff. So she wasn't paying for marketing, it was just coming to her. And I was getting ready to end that because it felt like I was either giving her bad advice or she just wasn't acting. It was one of the two. Then I listened to this podcast about leadership, and it said, listen, this guy said, I gave my team their personality tests and I evaluated them, and I realized that I was just getting mad at Mike for being Mike.
Right.
I had him in the wrong job. I had him in the wrong seat. And so I had this epiphany that said, I don't need to stop consulting her. I need to join arms with her. Let her do her thing, which is operations. I've already got the team. I've got an infrastructure because I had built out the VAs and all that, and all the softwares for my own company, my own properties. Let her manage all of that, bring her properties with her, and then I'll get to grow. And then she gets to manage just that part of it, which she loves to do. Right. So, she's been a godsend to me, really runs the back office as well as anybody. I'd put her up against anybody in this industry, frankly. And it allows me to do what I want to do, which is just go build relationships and grow. And I've got a nice enough network, and being on the board of the boardroom mastermind doesn't hurt. And so, yeah, all that. And that's where we are now. And we're the owner hosts because I didn't want to trust just anybody, any management company with my properties. I care a lot about this, and I was doing a damn good job of managing my properties. So the owner host represents, we're not just hosts, but we're owners too. We own properties, and that matters. Like, it matters in making decisions how we price properties and who we let into our properties and how we asset manage and how we proactively maintenance properties and address issues. What's an emergency? What's not an emergency? Like all of these things, they really, really matter. Building relationships with our neighbors matters. And we do that not just with my own property, but we do that with all of our clients' properties as well. That's important. And so all of these things that you just think about because you're an owner. And so we're the owner hosts.
Totally. Very well branded, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Nice and clear message. Okay, so the Capital Shift podcast listener demographic includes lots of high income W-2 wage earners. Okay, so you and I both know that Recent changes in tax legislation have made short-term rentals even more attractive to high-income W-2 earners. So if there's a bunch of those folks out there, maybe we've called them Stuart, I don't know, might be an avatar that we've written. We're thinking about Stuart and he's making all kinds of money, he's getting killed, paying taxes every single year, and he's kind of heard these rumblings that, hey, there's a way for you to offset a lot of that tax bill with the purchase of a short-term rental. So I know, like you know, that there's a lot of people out there who would like to get started, but don't really understand the market. They don't understand how to vet what they might purchase. They definitely are still deciding whether a property manager, a professionally paid property manager, is something that makes sense. And so consequently, there's a lot of buzz, a lot of noise, but not a lot of clarity. So let's talk about, because of your view, you have ample number of properties to be able to look at. You have a number of markets that you're operating in. We have the perspective from our boardroom mastermind community to infer what's going on in the places that you and I don't necessarily have a good look at. What's up? And what would you want people who are listening that fit the demographic I just told you? What are some of the things you would want them to be thinking about as they're trying to figure this all out?
That's a loaded question. I love it because there's so many answers I have to it. Okay. The first thing to know, and boy, I wish I knew this early on. Just because you like somewhere does not make it a good market for a short-term rental. Just because you've rented a short-term rental in that market and you go there, and it doesn't matter, right? It could still be, but it also does not guarantee. And so let me give you an example of that. Somebody likes to go from Michigan. A lot of people in Michigan like to go to Florida in the wintertime, right? Well, then I'll just buy one there and I'll go there for 3 months and I'll get to use it for the wintertime and then we'll rent it the rest of the year. Okay, cool. As long as you're okay with the break even part of it, cool. Because, and I say that because if you like to go there in the wintertime and use it, and you know everybody else also likes to go there in the wintertime, this is the money-making season. You know, and so the majority of my use in my Arizona properties is in the summertime when it's 120 degrees and everybody's getting the hell out of Arizona.
Right.
You know, and so that's at first, sometimes it just makes sense to keep renting in the place that you like.
Right.
Right. All right. So that's one. Two, there's no, you know, we always hear the question. I always hear the question, and people always ask me the question, what's the right market? What's the emerging market? What's the market? You know, and the truth is, go on Airbnb, and guess what? Every market has Airbnbs. And so all of them is the actual answer. It's study the market, understand what the market needs, right? Because I mean, if you think about, what's a good example? If you go to Chicago, downtown Chicago, right? How many restaurants do you have on the Magnificent Mile? And 3 blocks over and 3 blocks over? They're loaded. But so you know, if it doesn't, you know, I mean, there's no limitation. Anybody can come there as long as you have the vision to say there's differentiation in my concept. I can open another restaurant in Chicago. Similarly, I can go open another short-term rental anywhere. There has to be differentiation. I don't think that was the case 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even, and beyond. That wasn't the case. It was just basically just go throw something on Airbnb and it was going to work, or VRBO, whatever. But it's evolved. There's a lot of supply, and the supply has risen for a lot of the reasons that you talked about. The tax benefits in the short-term rental space, specifically for non-real estate professionals, are insane. It's the best way to not pay taxes anymore. And that was the scuttlebutt for us too, that we learned. It was like, oh wow, you know. So any market works. Understand your market. One place will need, you know, a pool, and another place, it doesn't matter if there's a pool. And yeah, I think those are my favorite things that I'd like to tell people. I think those are the things that I think matter the most is, and then, you know, look, invest in markets that you love. Doesn't mean, going back to my other comment, not just because you love to visit there and you're coming to use a property, but like invest in places that you truly love, right? Because I invested. This is our biggest mistake. I invested in Orlando, Florida, in Kissimmee, and we've got some unique properties there that do. One of them does fantastic. One of them does not do fantastic. We have two of them, and they're literally right next door to each other, side by side. One does incredible, and because it does so well, it pays for both basically,
Yeah.
right? It happens in markets. It happens. It's wild. So, look, I hate that place though. I don't want to go there. I don't even want to go check the condition of that place because I hate it. Now I will because I'm a steward and I'll do it, but I don't want to. It
Yep.
takes a lot of energy in my brain, just mentally, to say I'm going to Orlando, Florida. I hate Florida, the state. Doesn't mean it's a bad state. It just means me personally, I don't like it.
Mhm.
I love Arizona. So I can't buy enough there. And every opportunity that I get to say, shit, I'll fly there. And there's an 8 a.m. flight out of Detroit and there's a red eye that goes back. I will literally fly down and fly back same day. I'll go spend 12 hours there, do everything I need to, but it doesn't bother me and I'm not tired because I freaking love that place.
Exactly.
So that's important.
Exactly. So just to add a little more context to this, there are some very unique properties in the portfolio that owner host has under management today that are examples of what you're talking about as far as competitive differentiation is concerned. Why don't you share a couple examples?
Yeah, I'll give you one. So one of them, we manage this property. Um, uh, it's a $4 million house right on the ocean in Melbourne Beach, Florida. Okay. It's right on the ocean, 9 bedrooms. And the way it's set up is 6 bedrooms on one side, 3 bedrooms on the other side. There's like to get to the 3 bedroom unit, you just go up these stairs in the backyard, and then you can access the 3 bedroom. But it's a 9 bedroom house, right on the ocean, swimming pool, hot tub, gym, all of it, right? You pick up that property and you move it across the street, and it's still really good, but it's not on the ocean. So
Right.
differentiation, right? I mean, that's a big deal. The other thing that differentiates a property that's really cool, and my friend Roger just is getting ready to launch one. We have launched your property, right? In Sedona. We're doing the same thing with your property. But what do we do with this property in Melbourne Beach? 6 bedroom unit, 3 bedroom unit, and a whole house unit for 9 bedrooms. And we have 3 listings out of one house, right? And what happens is when we first launched the thing in February 2025, we launched all 3 units, let them fill up quickly. And then 90 days in, we learned, okay, this is really great. It's going really well. But guess what? The best ones to host are with the 9 bedroom listing, like when it's one person in the property at all times, because sometimes you get the guest that says, hey, hey, we saw a break in the, somebody broke one of the glasses in the shared pool house room, the cabana room right there, that's right next to the swimming pool. Which guest do you blame? Right? So there were shared amenities, so it makes it a little challenging. So we really like the 9 bedroom listing way better, obviously, and you only had to talk to one guest, right? And so what we learned was to, instead of allowing the 6 and the 3 bedroom units to just book all the time, we only allow those for the next 30 days.
Mhm.
So it's basically, we give all the time in the world for those 9 bedroom listings. And then for the next 30 days, what are the gap nights that are still available? Let's get them. Let's just get as much revenue as we can in the door, right? And so we'll deploy that with you. That's something that we learned, and a little bit of differentiation how we do that. We've got a great property in Peoria, Arizona. Challenging because it's 25 minutes away from, it's 20 minutes from downtown Phoenix. It's about 35 minutes from Old Town Scottsdale. But it's still Peoria, Arizona. You still have mountains, you still have golf courses. So there's some allure, and there's still the weather, and it's about 7 minute drive to the football stadium in Glendale, the Arizona Cardinals. So there's some allure to it. Differentiation. It was built by the head of the mafia in Phoenix. He
Oh,
doesn't own it anymore, so he's not my client, but the current owner is. But he built it, so you walk in and you do feel like it's the Godfather house. 7 bedroom main house, 2 bedroom casita. multiple bedrooms. It's got the poker room, the arcade room. It's got a huge pool, waterfall, pickleball court, basketball court. He's left no amenity that we can't offer. Weddings, events, masterminds, whatever you want to do, we've done them there, right? Amazing property, also very differentiated. Again, another property that's in San Diego that we manage. This is a 3-bedroom. That's a four house walk to the ocean. You get right on the little bike path there, right on Mission Bay. Awesome, right? Very differentiated again. So these are things that you just look for. I mean, it makes it easy to get bookings, which is huge. So they're like the house in Melbourne Beach, Florida. What I would say is a trained monkey can fill up the calendar. That's easy. It's right on it's a 9-bedroom house on the ocean. Anybody can get that calendar filled. But then, what about your hospitality? How's that? How are you talking to your guests? How are you upselling your guests? What are your response times when things go wrong? How do you build that relationship with your guest so that they're amenable to making it right? And these are all things that I like. These are things that came out of my corporate days, frankly, and just building relationships with the high level individuals in the banking space. And then it translated, but hospitality is a really big deal, and you got to know how to host, because you're one bad review away from the nicest property in the block never getting booked again.
Yeah,
Truth.
And that's the God's honest truth. There's no way, shape, or form to get around that. But before we get too far away from a key point that you made in this discussion, so if I can't afford the house on the ocean in Melbourne Beach, but I can afford the one across the street, am I sunk? Or what do I need to change from a thought process perspective to allow the one across the street to still be successful?
The one across the street can still be very successful. Pro forma drives it all, though, right? Like purchase price obviously matters. Amenities matter. So, do we need to then add a sauna? Do we need to add, what is that missing piece that we've got to bring on that's going to generate the revenue? Because there's still a debt service that has to be paid at the end of the day. And so, no, you're not sunk. Not everybody has the house on the ocean. Frankly, a lot of the people that can afford the ones on the ocean don't want to rent them. They're their houses. And so no, it still works very well. It's a pro forma that just goes back to what is a pro forma say.
Okay, I'll offer a little color here. So one of the things that we hear most frequently from the Stewart community is, all I can afford is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's all I can afford. And so we don't want to discourage entry-level investors from not participating. But at the same time, we want to caution those investors of purchasing something that is very standard in the market. So when we're talking about things like amenities, like there's one house I know you haven't talked about yet so far that has something to do with water and the floor.
Water and the what?
They might have a fish tank in the floor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we do. And that's a very attractive home. You're absolutely right. So that's a 4-bedroom, 4.5-bathroom home in Scottsdale, Arizona, right? That's definitely good enough size, but you're right. It's right on the borderline, right? So it could be almost standard. And so it's not our property. It's a managed property again. But it's got fish tanks in the floors all the way up and down the hallway into the bathroom where you can, poop. And that's, it's like, do I bring my fishing rod? Like, what do I do? Like, it's pretty, but it's so unique, and it pops in pictures because of that, right? And so when you're looking at, 4-bedroom homes that all look the same, they all look nice, but they all look the same. One of them's got fish tanks in the floor. And the kids love them. And then you read it on the review. Oh my God, the fish tanks were a hit with our kids. And it's like, oh, there we go. Now, certainly not to suggest that everybody should go put a fish tank in the floor and buy the most standard house, right? But because that also comes with its challenges. But yes, it's fantastic. I mean, we love that house.
The thing that I've learned in this process that took me some getting used to is I still view the home as someone's domicile, and that's mistaken thinking. So talk through, like, follow what I'm saying. Like, you
Yep,
know,
the master bedroom, baby. The master bed. Let's talk about the master bedroom.
and
So
garages
you're right.
and
You're
garage.
right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, garages, master bedroom. So one of the you know, you talk to, if you bring the interior designer that specializes in primary residences. So somebody is living in this home and they're designing it for me. What are you going to do with the master bedroom? What kind of bed are you going to put in there? You're going to put a king bedroom in there, right? Or a king bed. Great. Makes sense. Okay. In a short-term rental, you got a massive master bedroom. Okay. It's also, by the way, the most massive bathroom in the home. And what's the number one driver of revenue in short-term rentals? Heads in the beds. How many people can I get in this house? Now, we can't make it uncomfortable. It's still got to be my standards. We still got to be luxurious. We still got to be accommodating, hospitable, all those things. But I've got a ratio that I'm adamant about: four heads to a bath, right? You think about getting ready, you think about the time it takes to get ready. We have dinner reservations, but we still want to be able to play at the pool. Like, how do we shrink that time? How do we make it right? All those things. So you definitely don't want, it's really hard to get 6 people in a bathroom, but if you can get 4 people in a bathroom, it's great. Well, guess what? Largest one in the house is the master bathroom. Largest bedroom in the house is the master bedroom. Can we get 2 kings in a master bedroom? And we talked about this on a potential property you guys are also looking at. And I've done it on what property that I own. I've implemented on a couple properties that we manage. Guys, it works awesome. It works so awesome because think about it. You walk into a hotel room. Sometimes you have 2 couples that are sharing a hotel room. They fly into Chicago for the concert and they got one hotel room. They got 2 beds. Okay, great. Well, what if they're only one couple, but all you got is 2 beds? Cool. We'll throw the luggage on the other one. No big deal. It's no big deal because if you don't want to use it, don't use it. But if you have it, then you can use it, and it's fantastic. And then it goes even a layer further. You got to understand your market. We've got 60% plus of our bookings are bachelorette trips. Women don't mind sharing bedrooms. It's okay, especially bachelorettes. They're okay with it. So we get, it works great. So that's one way. Garages. Nobody's parking in garages. I mean, unless you're in like Montana or the mountains, the snow mountains or something like that, right? But majority in Scottsdale, I can tell you nobody cares about leaving their cars in the driveway. So we convert them to gyms, poker rooms, card tables, whatever, arcade, whatever else that we can put in there. I know some that do golf simulators. Those are fantastic ways to use those rooms. So absolutely have to think about, what is our guest use space? You're to your point, you're not living in the house. That's not the point of it. So you have to decorate it in a way. You have to maximize the square footage of your home. You just absolutely have to.
Yeah, and when making considerations on things like those amenities, adding that bed, you have a nice equation that you always talk about when making these evaluations for expense purposes. So you're looking for 2 specific returns on these potential investments. Why don't you want to talk about what those 2 things might be? So we talk about ADRs and occupancy, right?
ADRs and occupancy. That's exactly right. I mean, that's and a lot of people, I hear people all the time that argue, well, I'm at 100% occupancy. I said, then you're not charging enough, right? And so, from my perspective, 70% is a great number. If you can hit 70% occupancy 12 months out of the year, obviously that means that sometimes you're going to be at 100%. If you're doing it in the right time of the year, in the springtime in Scottsdale from like January 15th through April 30th, we're hovering right at 95%, right? But we also have months. I mean, it's not to pound our chest. We have months where we're at 50% because 120 degrees is not as desirable. And so, occupancy, ADR, what's the right formula? How do you maximize the revenue with also doing the least amount of wear and tear, right? So why do I like 70%? I like 70% because That means 30% of the year, we have opportunity to get in there and be proactive about maintenance, right? We have very predictable days where we can go in, we can schedule air filter changes, laundry unit cleans, deep cleans of the home, touch up painting, all this stuff that's very, very important to the experience long-term and maintaining the 5-star status that you want on these luxury properties, no doubt about it. The other thing I'd say is, we can exceed 70% for sure, and that's not a bad thing. So I don't want anybody to hear me wrong when I say, cap it at 7. But if you're at 85 or 90%, kick up your rates a little bit. And it doesn't mean you have to double your rates when I say that, right? But if you're at $600 a night, okay, can we get to 610 a night? Can we get to 615 a night? There's a point where the bookings stop coming in, and then okay, just pull that one back. We're good, right? So baby steps. It's not like big kicks. And then the other thing I'd say is understand when you're off market, when your off season is. So like I know June, July, August are challenging seasons. We do great on the weekends in Scottsdale. It's really hard to get the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday bookings there. So who am I looking for? I'm actually looking for 1 to 3 month bookings. The guy down the street that's remodeling big time and they need to shut it down, or the person that's it's summertime, they're not leaving, they're staying, and they don't have a pool. So, and yeah, I mean, whatever it might be, how do we get some midterm rentals or damage to their home and insurance payments? And we get a lot of those. So how do we get these guys in the summertime? And because it's our off season, heck, I mean, I got one of them in there right now for 9 months. One of our properties, we have just under $9,000 payment on this house, and we're getting a rent payment from this guy at $14,000 a month, and he pays utilities and everything, right? So it's just understanding when and pivot and all that.
To me, the real value here is for the prospect who's listening to think to themselves, I'm going to have like 15 weeks out of my year that I most likely will not fill, and I can be okay with that. Because now I've established a threshold point for myself that I don't have to have heart palpitations if I happen to get a report in for that month that shows that we didn't have a ton of bookings. Well, we're still following the trend line that suggests that 70% is going to be achieved, which if you're building all your forecast against that 70% number, it gives you a lot of leeway to not have that freak out moment. And I don't know, maybe go in and put in a pool in your place or make a significant improvement in your property because it's created enough money for you to be able to reinvest in the property to then drive up your ADR and maybe even drive up your occupancy a little bit. And if you don't ever take that moment to pause, you can't refresh pillows. You can't go in and do the touch-up work that invariably needs to get done because people have a tendency to have a little bit more to drink when they're at one of these places than they do maybe if they're hanging out at home on a Friday night. So it just makes good sense in having that comfort, peace of mind to know that we're not even trying to rent this thing out all day, every day for an entire year.
No doubt about it. The other thing we found, part of what I love to do is give back. And one of the things that we get to do, and part of that is marketing. I mean, there's obviously, anytime you can build your brand and grow, but also give back while you're doing it, it's a win for everybody, right? So, I mean, that's a big deal here. But we will donate. We'll do 3-4 night stays that we donate to fundraisers for our kids' private school or whatever it might be. And then we only allow those things to occur in our off season.
Mm-hmm.
So we might raffle it off in the spring, but they can only book, and it goes in disclaimers. So we do a lot of that in our off season as well. I mean, I think that's a really cool way to do it. Meet people that host events, and those are great things to do in your off season. Host a lot of events. We charge event fees on our properties, and then we use them. The other part of it, we get to use them. It's hot as heck out there, but guess what? There's a swimming pool, and we're okay with it being a little bit hot. We don't mind it, so we're warm-blooded. It's all good.
Yeah, some people, that's their favorite time of year. It just depends on the person, right? All right, so we have people who have comfort with money that are most likely listening. So we're not scaring away most people around the notion of, These are sizable investments, but there's an incredible tax benefit to be had if you're.
Let me cut you off there for a second, actually, if you're okay with it. So
Sure.
when you go to our website, theownerhost.com, and you say book your stay, you're going to see what you do. It doesn't take you straight to our properties. It takes you to a page where you get to pick one of two buttons. Button one, luxury villas, right? This is your vacation travel vertical. We have another vertical, accommodation stays. We call them comfort stays. Okay. So we've got like 40 properties, 45 properties in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Nobody's vacationing in Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? We got project managers, we got engineers, we got people that are coming back to visit family. We get a lot of things that happen there. So and our average stay is about 2.5 months, I think. There, right now we get a lot of short-term rental stuff, but we get a lot of these midterm rental things that go on, and so guess what? The investment in those properties is very small.
Right.
And Greenville, South Carolina, same thing. We've got 13 of them that we manage in Greenville, South Carolina. Rockwall, Texas, same thing. We've got so my point is to alleviate the pain for somebody listening to this says, oh my God, how am I going to buy the oceanfront property? You don't have to. To your point, you just don't have to.
Sure. Well, but this is a really good segue for what you're saying. So if I have money and I would like to get into this, there's typically, especially amongst the high W-2 earners, like they're used to measuring stuff. So when prospective owners that want you to host their property on their behalf come to you, give me, how many times is it I need cash flow? How many times is it I'm looking for a tax plan? How many times, like, of the ones that are available to these W-2 earners, what's the spread that you see most frequently?
Yeah, so what I would say is, and this is a lesson that I think a lot of people need to learn, and I've been pounding my chest about this since pretty much I came into the short-term rental industry. I kind of saw this and I understood it. But it's not what was talked about back in the day. It was not the sexy thing to talk about. It's not how Guru sold his online course and all these things, right? They always talked about cash on cash returns.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reality. Cash on cash return in the short-term rental space is not an easy thing. There's two ways, in my opinion, that you can do it in an easy fashion.
Hey, Fouad, just a second, so that we don't have to send somebody out to AI. Just give a quick cash on cash. What's the
cash
equation?
on cash return? How much money, how much cash am I dispersing back to myself? What's my net profit after some like to calculate that before debt service, before making their mortgage payment. I'm a guy that says, no, you got payments to make. You make all your payments. That's the cash that you have, whatever cash you have left, divided by how much cash did you leave in the deal. So if 20% down payment is what you had to put down, and that was $100,000, and you made $10,000 this year, your cash on cash return was 10%, right? 10,000 out of 100,000. Make sense?
Yep.
So for me, there's two ways to really focus on setting yourself up for the most success in achieving your cash on cash hurdles. One, you've got to have a super property. Like a super property, like a $4 million 9-bedroom home with a pool right on the ocean, or a 2-unit home that's 5-6 bedrooms in Sedona with a swimming pool in the backyard and a cold plunge and a hot tub and your 3-minute walk to the trailhead. That's a super property. That's going to deliver cash on cash return. Okay. Or you build a house and you create so much equity that on the refinance, you pull all your money back out.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing. Even if you make no money on that, you don't give a shit because you don't give a darn. Because why? You have no money in the deal. So as long as this thing pays for itself, you'll keep that asset forever. Right? In my opinion, the number one avatar or the person that should be buying a short-term rental is somebody that pays taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tax benefits you get will offset your down payment that you have to keep in the home. And then you don't have to care about how much money does this actually make me. I make money in my real thing, in my job, in my real thing, right? You're looking at a guy that we got to our ninth one and realized painfully, it's not consistent. The cash flow is not always consistent in this space. And so what did I do? I bought a business. I bought a
Yeah.
short-term rental management company,
Yep.
right? And that's the cash flow. That's the consistent cash flow. Now, we do have properties that consistently cash flow. We also have some that don't. And so I'm very honest about that. And so that's really important to me is, buy these things because you need tax benefits and they're lifestyle assets for sure, or you got so much money that the 20% down payment in there is not going to break your bank and you just really love that freaking house and you want to go there 3-4 times a year. Like, that's when you buy the house that I just really like, is you got so much money that the metrics don't matter.
And we do in the stewards that we talk to, in at least in the investors that we're interviewing, it's about 65% tax efficiency that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Some measure of cash flow mixed in for good measure, because everybody who tells you they're in it just for the tax suddenly also wants cash flow. So which is fine. Like, that's fine. And obviously the clearer the potential partner is about what their real wants are, the better it is for everybody that's involved in trying to bring a transaction to bear. Because if we have that moment of clarity for what everybody's wants and needs are, we can work to build a product in a market that we think will meet those expectations to the satisfaction of all the people who want to get in on the deal. So, but what we find very frequently, Fouad, is the tax efficiency seekers don't really know exactly what it is that they want. So when you see that, what little nugget do you give folks to go off and do this and then come back and talk to me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, look, BRRRR, right? So for those that don't know BRRRR, BRRR, buy, rehab, refinance, rent.
Right.
Okay. So what does that mean? You buy a house. Let's just use easy numbers. These are not easy deals to find, but let's just use easy numbers to give a quick example of that.
Yep.
Buy a house for $1 million. You put 200,000 of improvements into it. So now you're at 1.2 million all in, right? But because of those 200,000 improvements, we appraised at 1.8 million. Let's just say, well, if I go refinance my now 1.8 million worth home, and I can borrow 80% of that. Most of the time in the short-term rental space, it's 75%, but let's just say 80% using easy numbers. So 80% of that is 1.46, but I'm only 1.2 all in. So I get to take out 1.46. So I'm paying myself now $260,000 because I remodeled this home. So again, so that's a BRRRR. Now BRRRR STR, buy, refinance, buy, rehab, refinance, rent it as a short-term rental. So again, now we've alleviated that, because yes, I agree. Look, when I say as long as it breaks even, because you tax it, yes, right. But if we can make cash, obviously much better. So don't take me wrong. Yes, I'm with you on that for sure. We all want to make some money. So that BRRRR process, and that's where I evolved a little bit, was the first couple that we bought turnkey.
Yep.
Now, I'm not mad about it because I got sub 4% debt on those. So I'm actually happy. That was good times. I wish I would have bought more back then. But then we bought one more that was turnkey, but it was not sub 4. And that one we've only distributed. God, it's been 4 years. I think we've only made $10,000 in distributions on that one right now, right? So it pays for itself, fine. It's gonna be a long term. That's what I would call an okay investment, not a great investment. And sometimes you just got to be okay with hitting some singles. They're not all home runs. That's okay. It is what it is. It's a learning lesson. That's when we started shifting to let's build homes. So now we build homes and kind of do those numbers that I just talked to you about. We'll be, by the time we're done buying, tearing down, building, we're about 1.6. With furnishing, we're about 1.7 all in, but we're appraising 2.3, 2.4.
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating so much equity that we're okay with it. If we never make money on it, we don't care. We've got no money in the deal. Our money is moving on a refinance. We've got our tax benefit out of it. We don't care. And if we want to sell this one, guess what? Like the one that we just finished, we've got it listed on the market and it's renting as an Airbnb both. If it sells, fantastic. And if it
Right.
doesn't sell, fantastic. We're
Right.
good. We don't care. You
Yep.
know, and so I think that to me is the epiphany. Now, I'm using big properties, big numbers. This can be scaled down. Can we do that with a $250,000 house in Traverse City, Michigan? Sure. Why not? I mean, those things can happen. And so that's to me, that's the model.
Not only can those levers happen, Fouad, in the lower cost of acquisition properties, the levers actually have more leverage in them because you can force greater appreciation with less investment. So don't be shy if you feel like you've got a winner on your hands, if the bones are right and you can buy it right, but you can see what you can turn it into, especially if you have a team of people that you already can rely on to help you make your vision a reality, then you literally just bought yourself an ATM machine in a lot of ways.
Literally. And by the way, I mean, look, I say Burr like it's so easy to do. It's not. I mean, the reality is those are very competitive because guys like us are always looking for those deals, right? So there's so much competition on those kinds of deals. But can we get a half a Burr where it was like a 200K investment upfront, down payment, and then another 100K to put in or 200K to put in, but then when I refinanced, all I had to leave in the deal was like 70K. That's still not bad. That's really good. So like there's multiple ways to skin the cat. And again, singles, doubles, and triples. I mean, how many guys do we talk to at the boardroom mastermind that are kind of the newer, the younger, the pups, and they're still trying to figure it out. And they passed 13 singles looking for a home run. And it's like, you could have scored 3 runs by now. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
And you could have signed a big free agent and you could like, right, in the process, because those stacks stack, right?
No doubt.
Man, this has been so much fun. We could do this for like forever. This is great.
Do we need that episode 2?
Yeah, well, listen, this is sort of like what I would like you to consider. We'll see how the audience responds to what we're talking about, but because the Burnett family and Burnett Property Group is so active in short-term rental, I suspect that this will be a recurring piece of content within the podcast series. So if you're for it and they like you and they don't get annoyed with me in the process, then I don't see why we wouldn't keep doing it, Fouad.
I would love that, and I'm glad to add value. I hope it was valuable. Certainly, find me on LinkedIn, Fouad Bazzi, or on Instagram. Instagram is where I'm the most active, at Fouad_Airbnb. FOUAD for anybody who can't spell Fouad. But yeah, I mean, I've got a link in my bio. You can click schedule some time with me. I'm glad to help. I'm glad to add value. I really love to do this stuff. And I can already tell you in the direction that Roger and Melissa are going, follow their lead.
Well, I'm going to leave it at that, man. I can't say it any better, dude. Thanks.